All right, so we are live with the one and only Linda Sacker. So glad to be with her on this Epic Thursdays show for this Thursday. There's so much to say about Linda, but I'm going to make sure that I get at least the basics in there because she has a huge fan following from what I could see from the comments I was posting or seeing rather on the feed we had a few days ago. But Linda lives in Dubai and she's a counseling psychologist. She's got three lovely children, her biggest achievement to date. And she's also a pranic healer. She's a yoga lover. I think a couple of things very interestingly, she loves hiking. So she had this transformational hike to Mount Kilimanjaro. And on the way down, decided she had to make a bigger impact and set up a venture called From Kili with Love. And I'm going to have her elaborate on that a bit later. What we're going to talk about today and riff about, because that's what her strengths are, is how do we look at emotional agility when it comes to 2020 and beyond, and whether it's for entrepreneurs or whether you're not an entrepreneur, how can you make sure that you're always self-aware, able to deal with that uncertainty, and make sure that you kind of thrive and perform at your optimal best versus kind of staying hunkered back and not able to perform. So Linda, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Lovely to be here.
So I know that you have many people tuning in. So whoever's tuning yourself, whether you're tuning in from Dubai, whether you're tuning in from the US, Canada, etc. We've had people, as I told Linda before we started, our first guest was from Dubai. We then went to Melbourne. We then went to Toronto. Now we're back in Dubai, kind of doing this world tour. So whenever you're kind of chiming in, just tell us, where you're kind of hooked in from, and let's also know what your, best takeaways are. But let's start, Linda, with understanding in your mind, when you sort of say emotional agility, what are you saying? Does that mean in terms of practical application?
So the thing is with emotional agility, it's really about flexibility in the way that we think about things and the way, with our feelings, so that we can live in the most optimal way, especially given the situation that we're in nowadays. Uncertainty has become the new norm. And the only way to survive and cope is to have that level of openness that we can deal with things. And I don't necessarily mean that we have to just be positive or just, yes, negativity is it's part of the human condition, but it's just being more dynamic, and it's being able to, different situations, what is needed in this given situation, how can I best face the situation, and just being present and living with intention, having your intentions and your values aligned, which is very, very important. Because, in our intentions at the end of the day are very much where our mind and heart meet. And our values are our driving force, which help us in terms of the choices that we make in our life. Who do I spend time with? How do I want to spend my life? What do I want to spend my money on? So these things, our intentions and our values need to be aligned. So it's very much about figuring out what it is, where we are, being present, being very much mindful. The opposite of emotional agility would be like a very rigid kind of mindset where you're just set in your ways and you're not, and in this fast-paced world, and, we need to be more adaptable. I think adaptability is a key word that we need to be able to keep up. And so that's the important thing that we need, that can transform in many aspects, whether it's work, whether it's teaching it to our children. It's very much something that's needed in this day and age, is to constantly keep that openness, being receptive.
In the COVID lockdown period, what were you finding yourself saying most often to your clients on Zoom? Because obviously they were not able to meet you in the clinic. So what did you find saying again and again, and yet they were not maybe getting it, or they were struggling to kind of, work that into their own, psyche or their mindset?
It's a good question. Everyone took this differently, and everyone sort of interpreted this lockdown in their own way, given their personality, experience, mindset, attitude. Some people were thriving and some people were just surviving. And it was very important during this time to keep morale going, life is governed by cycles, that what is this teaching you, rather than trying to escape it and everything's going to be okay, emotional bypassing, look at the bright side, smile. These things don't really help. Ultimately what we need to do is face our anger, face our fears, face our sadness. What is it teaching me? What is it telling me? there's a lesson here that I need to come face to face with and really connect, understand what's expected of me, rather than, oh, I can't wait for this to be over and my life is over and I can't believe, some people just kind of took it as the end of the world. And really, it's when you sit down and face it and be more mindful, more present, you're able to see more clearly.
So what was the, if I can call, the judo move you are recommending to your clients? Is like, sit down, take those 5 minutes and 10 minutes and do this, and then we speak again. Otherwise, don't call me back. I'm not your counselor anymore. Like, what are you asking them to get started on? Because otherwise, they're just kind of coming back and complaining and moaning and not doing anything about it.
The thing is, one thing about lockdown, I was very big on having structure. If you don't have structure during your day, people just felt so lost. So it's very important to create a structure, because now that people weren't in an actual physical office space, or they felt, a lot of them just were in their pajamas all day and just sitting there, just felt like they didn't really feel productive. They didn't feel like they added value. So it was very important to start your day, sleep at a reasonable time, wake up at a reasonable time, have structure in your life. And, at the end of the day, have things that you want to do that you've always wanted to do and never had the time to do. And now that you've got this opportunity, is to maximize that and utilize it. And just do, make the most of your given situation. So it was very much, if there's a key word here, it would be action. Take action. Because the only way we're going to get motivation is by taking action. And the only way we're going to overcome anxiety, depression is through action. So action is huge.
Well, I was on a call last night with my coach as well, and he said, we can reflect on our memories and think about our aspirations, but in the present, our choices and actions, right? You can't have actions in the future. You can't have choices in the future. Everything is in the present. That's so true. Now, what's been the shift you've sort of seen when people are going out of lockdown now and we are looking at the years ahead, the months ahead? What are you sort of, the conversation that you're having, what is the essence of that? What are you trying to say to them? To kind of, okay, the structure was useful. Now you started going out, you started driving again, going to the office perhaps, et cetera, et cetera. So before it was action, if that was the key verb or noun, what's the sort of key focus right now you are saying to your clients?
Well, now that we have that, because there's still a lot of uncertainty, just because things have eased off, people are still wondering where they stand. People are still very much, it's a type of grieving, this process that we're going through, the losses. I've lost my summer holiday. I've had people say to me, I've lost this, I've lost that, a lot of things that nothing makes sense, that I can't plan anymore, these kind of, so letting go of that attachment to that overly planning. Of course, we need to plan and have something, because, we can't be completely impromptu, but accepting that sometimes we have to just be in the moment, we have to improvise, that things will not always go our way, and that's okay. We have that adaptability again, action, adaptability, keywords for success and well-being. Yes.
So I think in your specialty of skills, parenting counseling is also very key. And you're, of course, a mother yourself, but you've been also on the parenting side from a counseling perspective. And as entrepreneurs, because, Epic Thursdays, the show is all about how do we help these, fearless entrepreneurs peak performance despite the uncertainty. Regardless, I know that you're also married to an entrepreneur, so you can probably relate to that as well. But at the end of the day, when we look at the whole sort of art and science of parenting when it comes to entrepreneurship as well. So I could be here and then I've got homeschooling to take care of, perhaps with my sons, are going to school, or there's something happening around his unable to cope with the lack of social connection at home, etc., with his friends, etc. So what on the parenting side needs to also be considered if as entrepreneurs or as senior executives that we need to kind of perform? We can't leave that part of our life and assume that everything else will be right? So what are you is there kind of a connection that we need to kind of make sure it kind of works rightly?
The most important thing, Aman, in this case is really about managing expectations, because expectations is what leads us to stress, which is, as you know, the number one silent killer. So whether we're talking about men or women, it's, mothers, working entrepreneurs, this is across the board. So really managing expectations, because people put a lot of pressure on themselves. Yes, we have external expectations, but we also have internal expectations that are quite damaging as well. So really it's about taking that step back and letting go of like this superwoman syndrome and, I have to be the perfect mom and the perfect wife and the perfect, to save the world. And so all these things, again, it's taking a step back and just really doing the best you can with what you know, with the resources that you have, and allowing yourself that it's okay. It's okay not to know all the answers, not to, we can't have it together all the time. We have to accept that sometimes we need help and we need to reach out to people. Sometimes we need to delegate. Sometimes we need to just take a step back, and we can't just be self-reliant, putting on a brave face. We're not robots at the end of the day. So just having that self-compassion and taking a step back and, taking full responsibility for what we need to do. But at the end of the day, not putting that extra added pressure, I think is very important. And also having healthy boundaries, I think is very important. I think people need to put boundaries in place so that they don't get taken advantage of, or, they don't get worn out, burnt out. So it's very important balance.
I think you've spoken a very important part when you talk about boundaries, because people are very easily driven by someone else's priorities and they feel they have to address that. And that begins by the first thing you do in the morning. If it is looking at your phone, you're already out of the game, right? So,
exactly.
I mean, let me just switch to another experience which is very important in your life, which is the whole journey to Mount Kilimanjaro and what it did to shape your life after that. I'd be curious to understand the shift that it made that led you to do something, entrepreneurially speaking. And then also, how did you kind of manage your stress levels, whether it's, you're doing the counseling psychologist, you're doing the mom at home, you're the husband, the wife, and then you're also the entrepreneur. How are you kind of managing all of that? So let's start with that trip down from Kilimanjaro.
Yes, it was just such an amazing trip. I mean, it was completely out of my comfort zone. I never imagined I would do such a thing. And really going on a mountain is very much mirrors our journey in life. Because there are ups, there are downs. The mountain is unpredictable. You've got easy paths, rocky paths. You've got all sorts of unpredictable weather, good weather, bad weather. So the only way to get to the top of the mountain is to take it one step at a time. And as they say in Swahili, pole pole. So it's just really, this is where I first learned how to be truly present and mindful, because I'm not thinking about my to-do list. I'm not thinking about anything other than the present moment, where I am, and where, keeping my head up was one of the best advice I had, taking in the scenery and just really enjoying the moment, smelling the roses, so to speak. So that was really it, just being in nature. There's something very magical about it. So that inspiration, you can imagine, it was with all that inspiration. And this is where it came. I felt like there was more to it. And I felt like I wanted to give back to these lovely people that really felt like family. They took such good care of us. They were so caring. I mean, these guys have a psychology background, I'm convinced, like instinctually. So I just felt like I need to do something, and it just felt right. When you trust your gut instinct, it just felt right. There was a lot of trust, and I felt like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I set up a tailoring shop in Tanzania, and I have a whole community of women that make stuff, like from clothes to accessories. They send it here, I sell it, and all goes back to their community. And it's just, I mean, how I manage it, it just fell into place. I mean, somehow you have to have faith that this is going to work. You have to envision success. I've never done anything like this before, so for me this was venturing into the unknown. All I've ever done was work as a counseling psychologist at a place, so this is again out of my comfort zone. But just having that regular communication and having that openness and being very receptive and just trusting that, having faith in the process is, it just fell into place. It's just something magical about it.
So what do you remind yourself every time you do something from Kili with love, in terms of the actual effort and the energy, whether it's emotional, physical, or otherwise, that this is worth it? What sort of self-talk happening in your mind when things are going tough?
It's just that the pleasure that one derives, just the feeling that you're contributing, you're making a difference, you're impacting. There's something bigger than you, and there's something more, there's a purpose, and there's a bigger picture, and it's so motivating. When you envision these things, this is where you derive your motivation. This is where it keeps you going, makes you feel that, just gives you, it's empowering for them. It gives me more power in the sense that more energy to kind of want to do more. And, it becomes a win-win situation where everybody feels there's a feel good factor. And I think that's really what drives this beautiful project.
So let me, I guess, take from that experience of the Mount Kilimanjaro hike down, and now you're an entrepreneur. So now you understand better what other entrepreneurs probably are also experiencing, because you're not just, I guess, preaching, you're also experiencing. So what have you found has been the most useful, yet sometimes most frustrating counsel you've given to entrepreneurs? Because if they get it, they'll hack it, or they will resolve it, they'll coast forward. But they don't get it, they come back and you're like, did you do that? You're like, didn't do that, gonna try it again. So what's been very frustrating yet very powerful counsel that you've been sharing over the years, or maybe in the last few months?
The only way to thrive in this sort of an environment is you have to identify what your triggers are, because your triggers are your teachers. So whatever it is that's triggering you, or whatever is weighing you down, really kind of coming face to face with it, making sense of it. So that's really important to understand that. And, at the end of the day, reaching out, if you don't know something, ask for help, ask for advice, ask for people. You don't have to do it all on your own. You're not, you can reach out and get people to help, as well as just kind of accepting what comes, like asking yourself, being more solution focused rather than problem focused. And a lot of people often just end up panicking when things don't go well, or when things don't go their way, or it's really about, is there another way of looking at this? What are the solutions? What are the alternatives? Where is the evidence that this is going to happen? And then if things don't work out, to ask yourself, well, what have I learned, and what can I do differently? And to take them as lessons for growth and development, and as opposed to, oh, this is just the end of the world, how some people can be quite dramatic. So it's such a learning curve.
I mean, do you kind of give them, from a practical perspective, like a sheet or an assignment or something, like homework, if I can call it, like do this, identify these triggers? Because I mean, when you said triggers, it was a beautiful word, because I've been studying flow science and flow states over the past few months, and the whole idea of flow triggers. How do you get into this state of high performance? Is you need to find whether they're creative triggers, social triggers, environmental triggers. So what sort of activity do you suggest people get into so they can figure out what those triggers are? Because if you're actually being triggered, sometimes the triggering is so powerful that you don't have the time to step back and understand what those triggers are, because you're not lost in space, for lack of a better phrase. So what do you suggest someone to do if they're listening and watching us right now? And look, if you don't know what your triggers are, do 1, 2, 3, ABC, and this will help you at least get more mindful of what those triggers are.
The most thing I recommend for people is to write things down and to keep a log or a journal, because that's the best way to assess, and that you can look back and you can identify patterns if you have that. So, usually people find that quite helpful, because once you can write things down, oh, that makes sense. I was thinking in this way, or I was behaving in this way, and this led to this and that. You can actually look at the process and make sense of it. So it's always, it's not everyone's cup of tea to write, but it does help put things in perspective. It really does help to identify. And if you can make sense of the triggers, they're really going to help you get to the next level and help you grow. And so I think it's quite important to be able, some people like to journal, some people enjoy that, which is great. It really does help. Some people can just map it out in a way that makes sense. Everyone, it's what you're comfortable with ultimately.
But you need to kind of somehow take stock of what those are, regardless of how you do it, so that you understand what's kind of, sending you on that trip, perhaps, that you don't want to go on.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
You're also a pranic healer. So I'd be curious to understand, because we spoke of the idea of having the right level of energy as well, because that also is getting weighed down if you don't are able to have emotional agility in our sort of toolkit. So how is the whole idea of pranic healing and sort of helping you to help others and also help yourself?
So pranic healing, just to give you a quick overview, is about energy. Prana means energy, life force, and it's a no-touch healing modality, very similar to Reiki, that helps people. The fundamental principle is that the body can heal itself, and that sometimes if the body's stressed out, or there's the energy becomes diseased. So it really helps with everything from physical ailments to psychological ailments, everything from headaches to like relationship issues to cancer. It can really, it's just wonderful. And it's really just going back to basics. It really is just, feeling that, wow, I can work on myself, that it's not something out there. It's, the resources and the tools are all with me. I can do this. So it actually really is quite beneficial, quite helpful, and it's
Okay.
been around. Yeah, yeah.
Well, 20 minutes have flown past as I thought they would with Linda.
Yeah.
So I think a couple of things to finish, or maybe three things. One is, if you were to uh, give three things for people to try out that will help them optimize their mind, body, and spirit in a way that will help them in ways perhaps maybe they've not tried them before, etc. If not all those three, maybe one of them. What would those three things be? Those protocols, those practices they can start so that they can get into it as soon as they've finished watching this, they start doing it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm such a big believer in yoga. I really believe it really helps, mind, body, spirit. And it's not about being flexible. It's not about being, sort of doing headstands. It's just really helps you align. It brings you together, and it makes you very present. And it's not you're comparing yourself to others, but it's you're comparing yourself to how you were yesterday. And it makes you appreciate your body as well and what it can do. I mean, that's one thing that I found very beneficial. The other thing that I swear by as well is meditation. I mean, I just feel like my mind is completely clutter free, and I've just offloaded, and it's just powerful, what it can do, the clarity. I sleep a lot better. I just feel like I have more energy. So definitely, and doesn't I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but you have to persevere with it. It's just one of those things. You might not like it to begin with, but you just have to be consistent, and hopefully, it will at some point resonate or click. And the third thing is being in nature, doing the things that you enjoy. Just be present, do the things that you enjoyed doing when you were younger. Do the things, just being more kind of playful. We take ourselves too seriously, I really think we do. And I think it's just allowing for that space to just be and just fool around and just kind of, there's enough stressors going on outside. So just kind of letting go and just being present. Yeah.
Okay. So yoga, meditation, and nature, that's like the magic circle, the magic triangle. Let's call it that.
Yes.
Right? If people, Linda, want to know more about you, where's the best place? I think you also have a handle for your from Kelly with Love as well, right? Is that an Instagram handle?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll post that in the notes as well, so they can get there. And is there anywhere else they can learn more about you in case they want to get in touch with you and I guess unpack some of the things that we sort of shared today?
So I suppose the Facebook page, does it show when you tag this video?
Yep, absolutely. Okay, we'll do that.
Get through to me there. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And
well, the final thing, we don't let you go. We don't let anyone else go before this last thing is, if you were to set a challenge for whoever's watching this, because you don't want to kind of just have people watch this like they're watching a movie with popcorn and ice cream and do nothing about it, right? So what is the actual action? Going back to your earlier phrase, right? That action is what matters. So what action do you suggest people get on? What's that 7-day or maybe 30-day for the more brave ones out there that you say, if you start doing this for either the next 7 or next 30 days, your life will change for the better? What would that be?
I'd like people to think about what they want to stop doing, what they want to start doing, and what they want to continue doing. Stop doing in terms of what's not serving them anymore, in terms of habits, in terms of whatever it is that's holding them back, something they've always wanted to start doing but never got around to. And what do they want to maintain? What do they want to continue? So just really get out of your comfort zone, give yourself a challenge, whatever it is, and it's baby steps. I'm not endorsing go climb a mountain, but at least small steps, and give yourself credit all along the way. Every time you've achieved something, no matter how small, give yourself credit that you've worked hard for this. Didn't just happen. You put in a lot of effort, you were patient, you persevered, you were persistent. So set yourself mini tasks and really give yourself a challenge. The only way to grow is to have constant challenges. This is
All
So
right.
yes, stop, start, continue.
Well, we're gonna. That's it. It's a nice segue to kind of stop here. That's a wrap, folks, with our Epic Thursday show this week. Thank you very much again, Linda, for being with us on a Thursday evening. I know it's getting into your weekend, so I appreciate the time. And thank you all for watching. Whoever was watching it, let us know what you thought and give all the high fives and loves and all the other emojis for Linda's great remarks and comments. Otherwise, see you all next week. And Linda, thank you again very much.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.